Hello, everybody. It's ET's Babies. I am fin to do Baby Peach's hair. I decided I was going to do her hair. She is such a chunky baby. We're not going to use the little comb. Okay, so I really don't have nothing to talk about. So while I do her hair, we are going to listen to some stories, some horror stories. They're not
The parents
bad,
seemed pretty normal. They smiled.
but these scary stories belong to YouTube. I have no, what do you call that, copyright or anything over these. They belong to YouTube. So we're just gonna listen to some YouTube stories while I do Baby Peach's hair.
Well, I didn't say much and moved quickly around the house, like they were in a hurry but trying not to show it. They left a list of instructions taped to the fridge, gave their two kids a quick hug, and left without much of a goodbye. Nathan and Zoe were calm, quiet, well-behaved, 7 and 9 years old, playing a memory game on the carpet like they'd done it 1,000 times. I settled onto the couch with my laptop across my leg, while they kept playing. They didn't yell, didn't fight, didn't even talk much. Honestly, it was refreshing. I thought the night would be boring, but easy. The house was silent, almost unnaturally so, but I figured it was just the neighborhood. When it was time for bed, I told them to head upstairs. No complaints. They went up on their own. I followed out of habit, asking if they wanted a story. Nathan said no without looking at me. Zoe was already in bed, staring at the ceiling. I shrugged it off, closed the door, and headed back down. I opened the fridge, grabbed some cookies, and sat down again with my phone. I remember thinking how smooth everything was going. No drama, no noise. It almost felt like I wasn't even babysitting, just passing time. The first knock on the door was soft, but it hit me like a jolt. 3 dry taps. I walked over, phone still in hand, assuming the parents had forgotten something. Through the frosted glass, I could make out a figure standing completely still. No movement, no sound, just standing there. I put my hand on the lock, but didn't turn it yet. Then the screaming started upstairs. Both kids shrieking like something was tearing them apart. Nathan's voice cracked as he shouted not to open the door. He kept saying, "It's him! He's the bad man! He comes at night to take us!" Zoe was yelling too, telling me to step away from the door. My body froze. I couldn't decide whether to look at the handle or run upstairs. The man knocked again, louder this time. Then he grabbed the knob and started shaking it violently, like he knew I had been about to open it. I ran to the landline. Dead. No dial tone, not even static. I searched the living room, my bag, the floor. My phone was gone. Every second without a signal felt like another nail in the coffin. I went to the kitchen, desperate for another phone, and that's when I saw him, standing outside the window, less than 2 feet away, staring right at me. His face wasn't human. His face looked burnt, melted. The skin was cracked open in places, raw and blackened. His lips were twisted like he had to learn how to talk again after losing half his mouth. He moved his jaw like he was saying something, but no words made sense. Just dry, broken sounds like metal scraping against itself. He never blinked, even when he slammed both hands flat against the glass. He was trying to talk, maybe even plead. I backed away slowly, barely breathing. Then his hands hit the window harder. He wasn't trying to scare me. He looked desperate, like he needed me to understand something, but I couldn't. I didn't want to. I bolted upstairs without another glance. I ran to the kids' room and shut the door behind me. I asked them if they knew him. Nathan said, "He only comes when babysitters are here." Zoe added, "He heard this last one. That's why my mom and dad don't let us talk about him." I told them to stay put while I checked the locks downstairs. I didn't want to leave anything open, not after seeing that thing outside. In the hallway, I heard a soft noise, different from the knocks. It sounded like a door sliding across tile.
I'm Pat Dunphy of Camden and Dunphy, and for over 40 years we've been representing people who've been injured in accidents. We have the experience. If you need help because you've been in an accident...
I froze. My back went cold. Something was wrong. I ran to the kitchen and felt my stomach drop. The back door was wide open. Outside, everything was dark, but inside, we weren't alone anymore. I heard footsteps behind me, slow, dragging. I turned and ran toward the stairs, but halfway there, I saw him. He was already inside, bleeding hands moving toward the stairs, eyes locked on me. I threw myself to the side to dodge, but he caught my arm. His grip was brutal. It felt like bones were grinding under his fingers. I screamed. I tried to break free, hit him with a vase. Nothing. He didn't even flinch. I grabbed a floor lamp and smashed it into him. That gave me just enough of a gap to push him away and run upstairs. He didn't follow right away. I heard a deep, wet growl behind me, like his lungs were full of tar. I barricaded the bedroom door with a chair. The kids were sitting quietly on the floor. Zoe had crossed her legs. Nathan was drawing something. I told them to stay quiet, not to move. They didn't respond. Nathan whispered, "He's already inside." Then came the banging on the door. Not knocks, full body slams. The chair slid across the floor with each hit. The kids crawled closer to me. I backed into the wall. That's when the pain hit, sharp and deep. Something stabbed my foot. I looked down, a screwdriver sticking out of me. Nathan was smiling, not scared, happy. Zoe jumped onto me and bit into my shoulder like an animal. I screamed, shoved her off, blood pouring down my arm. The door shattered. He rushed in, but not towards me, toward them. He grabbed them both, not to hurt them, but to hold them down. They tore into him like wild dogs, scratching, biting, screaming in voices that didn't belong to children, voices that didn't sound human. I crawled out of the room, dragging my bleeding foot. He screamed behind me. It didn't sound like pain. It sounded like something being devoured, piece by piece. I slid down the stairs, leaving a streak of blood on every step. I made it to the kitchen and threw myself against the back door. Somehow, it wasn't locked. I rolled into the grass outside, soaked in sweat and blood. The cold air slapped me awake. I tried to stand, but someone grabbed me by the waist. A woman. She pulled me up like I weighed nothing, dragging me to her car, and shoved me into the passenger seat. My hands shook. I couldn't form words. She slammed the door shut, looked at me once, then ran toward the house. I thought she was going to die in there, but after what felt like forever, she came back, panting, eyes wide. She got in, turned the key, and drove like hell. I cried, not from pain, from everything I didn't understand, from what I saw in those kids. I didn't want answers. I just wanted to survive. In the car, she kept glancing at me. Her mouth trembled. Then she spoke. She said that the man was her brother. He used to be the babysitter. The kids burnt his face on the stove. He barely made it out alive. No one believed him, not even her. She said she started watching the house after that. The parents never showed up. No one ever left or came in except new babysitters. She thought maybe he'd gone insane. Until tonight. He didn't come to hurt anyone. He came to stop it from happening again. She broke down crying, hitting the steering wheel. She said she didn't know what those kids were, but they weren't kids. Her brother said something lived inside them, something that woke up when adults left them alone at night. I just nodded, frozen, blood sticky on my arms, my foot on fire, my brain barely holding on. We never spoke about it again. She helped me heal, helped me lie at the hospital, let me stay at her place the first few nights. We never went back again. Sometimes I dream about them, about their fake smiles, their teeth in my skin, their eyes without emotion. Sometimes I hear him scream again, being ripped apart. I never babysat again. I changed cities, changed numbers, changed everything. But the memory's still there, as real as the night it happened. The woman and I talk once a month. We never bring it up, but we both know it's still out there. That house, that family, waiting for the next babysitter.
This story is based on the crimes of Stefan, a German psychiatric nurse who was arrested in 2019 for kidnapping and torturing women he met through dating apps. He used fake identities, often pretending to be charming or emotionally vulnerable to gain his victims' trust. Once they agreed to meet, he would lure them to his home, where he drugged, restrained, and subjected them to both physical and psychological abuse, sometimes for hours, sometimes for days. His crimes came to light when one of his victims managed to escape and reported him to the police. A search of his home uncovered disturbing evidence, video recordings, tools, and journals filled with detailed accounts of the attacks. He was eventually captured after investigators traced his activity across social networks and dating platforms, uncovering a clear pattern of manipulation and calculated isolation. During his trial, Stefan showed little remorse, claiming that what he did was an exploration of the boundaries of consent, a defense that convinced no one. He was sentenced to life in prison for kidnapping, torture, and murder after it was confirmed that at least one of his victims had died from the injuries he inflicted. The case sparked widespread debate in Germany about the safety protocols of dating services and how easily certain professionals can access controlled substances. I met him in front of the hotel. It looked old, like it hadn't been cleaned properly in years. The kind of place that still uses brass keys and has cigarette burns on the hallway carpets. I wasn't expecting luxury, but this place felt forgotten. Stefan said he liked places like this because they don't interfere. I didn't ask what that meant, but the way he said it stuck with me. His voice was calm, his eyes never blinked enough, and his smile didn't reach the skin around his eyes. He looked normal from a distance, pale but clean-shaven, tall, lean, and dressed well. But up close, there was something off about how still he stood, how he moved too smoothly, like he was always conserving energy for something worse. I told him we could go for drinks somewhere else, but he insisted the bar upstairs was more private. I nodded, mostly out of politeness, and followed him inside. I told myself I could leave any time. Inside the elevator, I noticed the silence. No music, no talking, just his steady breathing and the hum of the old system. He kept glancing at me without turning his head, just his eyes shifting while his lips stayed tight. On the 9th floor, we stepped into a hallway that smelled like mildew. He walked ahead, stopped at room 914, and
Sharpie S Gel. High performance, won't smear, won't bleed. An exceptional, smooth writing experience. It's vivid and bold. That's the impact of Sharpie in a gel pen.
locked the door without hesitation. The room wasn't what I expected. It wasn't romantic, it wasn't cozy, it wasn't remotely normal. There was a table set for two in the center, but no food. The chairs were bolted to the floor. Heavy curtains blocked the windows, and the lights were dim, yellow, and sickly. There was a faint smell that I couldn't place at first, something sour mixed with metal, like an old drain mixed with rotting coins. He walked in behind me and locked the door immediately. The sound made me freeze. Not just the click, but the way he did it, like he was marking the beginning of something he'd rehearsed. He removed his coat slowly, folding it carefully and laying it across the back of the chair. I didn't sit. I couldn't. My body knew something was wrong before my mind did. I asked him what we were doing here. He told me to relax. He said tonight was about sharing something honest. His tone was too soft, too collected, and that scared me more than if he'd yelled. He walked to a cabinet, opened it, and pulled out a black leather case. It looked medical. He unzipped it, revealing a line of sharp tools, each one clean, shiny, and perfectly aligned. My throat tightened. I asked him again, louder this time, what the hell this was. He turned to me, and his face had changed. He wasn't smiling anymore, but he looked satisfied, like the wait was over. What hit me hardest wasn't a punch. It was the chair against the back of my knees. He swept my legs out from under me and forced me into it in a single motion. My head bounced against the wood, dizzying me. I fought to get up, but he was already strapping my wrists down with thick leather bindings that had been attached under the armrests. I screamed and kicked, but the legs were bolted. His face was close to mine, and he whispered that the struggle made it better. The tension in the room grew like it had weight. I was breathing so fast I started to choke on air. He knelt in front of me and stared at my hands. He touched my fingers gently like they were instruments. Then he started talking, calmly, slowly, as if giving a presentation. He told me fingers are the best place to start because they're manageable, familiar, and people tend to underestimate how much nerve damage they can take before passing out. I begged him to stop. He tilted his head, smiled faintly, and asked if I'd prefer to start with toes. When he picked up the scalpel, it wasn't dramatic. He didn't raise it or taunt me. He just selected it like a surgeon picking the right tool. My hands trembled uncontrollably. He placed the blade on my pinky knuckle and pressed down hard and quick. There was no pause. The pain was sharp and white hot, but not the worst part. The worst part was watching him hold my finger in front of his mouth like a piece of candy and take a bite. He chewed with his mouth closed. I gagged. Blood ran down my palm, hot and thick. He murmured something about taste, something about nerves being more flavorful if the victim is awake. Then he moved to the next finger. Each cut was clean, but the way he handled my fingers made it worse. He treated them like pieces of fruit, inspecting each one before slicing. By the time he got to the middle finger, I was shaking so violently I felt the leather cutting into my skin. My legs kicked out of instinct, but he barely noticed. He just focused on eating. Every time he swallowed, he let out this little hum, like a satisfied animal. I asked him why. I didn't expect an answer, but he gave one. He said eating someone alive is the only way to feel what they feel, that when the body dies, the taste dies too. He said I was perfect because I was healthy, untainted, not ruined by sugar or smoke. He said he could taste my fear in my blood. I wanted to scream, but my throat was dry. I think I was losing too much blood. The smell of the room was unbearable now. Not just metal, meat, cooked flesh. It was coming from him. He was sweating, eyes wide, lips slick with red. He started pacing like he couldn't stand still anymore. I saw him stumble slightly, but he caught himself. He grabbed another tool, something longer, thinner, and started walking back toward me. Before he could use it, he paused. His breathing changed, his pupils dilated. Then, without warning, he dropped the instrument and sat down hard, clutching his head. His chest rose and fell erratically. He groaned, tried to speak, then collapsed sideways on the floor. The silence was worse than the pain. I didn't know if he was dying, sleeping, or waiting. He twitched on the floor, mumbling something I couldn't understand. I had seconds, maybe less. I focused on the strap on my left wrist. The blood had soaked the leather, making it slick. I twisted my hand, grinding bone against the torn edges, until the strap slid off. The moment it did, pain surged, but I kept going. I reached across to the other arm, ignoring the screaming nerves. I got the second strap loose and dropped to the floor. My body felt half dead. I crawled over to where he lay. He was conscious, but barely. Sweat poured down his forehead, and his mouth was open. He whispered, "Don't leave yet," but his voice was slurred. I searched his coat for a keycard, found it in the inside pocket, and crawled to the door. Opening that door felt like tearing through a nightmare. I dragged myself into the hallway. My blood painted a trail behind me. I didn't care who saw. I screamed for help. I reached the stairs and forced myself down, my foot slipping on every third step. 9 floors. My vision blurred. I kept going. I hit the lobby like a collapsing building. The clerk behind the desk froze. Then I saw him reach for the phone. They stabilized me in the ER. 3 fingers were gone for good. The 4th was partially saved. I couldn't stop shaking even after the morphine. I gave my statement to the police that night. They searched the hotel. They found the room, the knives, my blood, even traces of another person's DNA on the chair legs, but no Stefan. They said he might have escaped before I hit the lobby, but I knew better. He let me go, or rather, his body did. The excitement had overwhelmed him. It wasn't part of the plan. He lost control of his own sickness, and that's the only reason I'm alive. 3 weeks later, a man disappeared. They found his body in an abandoned garage outside the city, fingers gone, parts missing. A month after that, they got him. Caught him cooking something on a camping stove in the middle of nowhere. He told the cops they were interrupting dinner. He smiled during his trial, never denied anything, told the court it wasn't murder, just connection. Said people like me should be honored to live inside him forever. They locked him away, but not before he asked for his own fingers to be removed and sent to his last victim.
The Honda CR-V is one of the most popular SUVs in America, and it's also...
The wedding was supposed to be just a night to forget. My cousin's big day. Everyone dressed like mannequins, shoved into fancy clothes, pretending to have a good time. I was one of the bridesmaids, stuck with a dress that choked me and shoes that felt like torture devices. My boyfriend was already drunk before the ceremony even started. Typical. As guests laughed and cheered, I noticed him almost immediately. Not because he stood out in a crowd. He didn't. He looked like a regular old man, but something about him felt off. He didn't talk to anyone, didn't laugh, didn't move much. He just sat in the corner of the reception hall, staring at the ceiling or maybe through it. He wasn't on anyone's guest list. No one I recognized, and yet he was there. I nudged my boyfriend, trying to point him out quietly. He barely registered it, slapped my arm and laughed, spinning me toward the dance floor. The music blasted, and the drunk smiles blurred around me. But I kept stealing glances at the man. Then suddenly, he vanished. Just like that, gone. That's when things started to feel wrong. I told my boyfriend again, but he was too wasted to care. I scanned the room trying to spot the man. No luck. I asked a few guests if they had seen him, but nobody noticed anything. The music was too loud, the chatter too thick. My gut screamed at me to look for him, to find out why a stranger was crashing a family wedding. Without thinking, I slipped away from the crowd and moved toward the back entrance of the hall. The air outside was colder, the quiet sharp. No one followed me. No one even seemed to care. The reception was a bubble where no one noticed things that didn't fit. As I reached the edge of the building, I spotted a door leading to a storage room. The same door the man had disappeared behind. My heart hammered, but I pushed it open. Inside, I found him. The old man sitting on the floor, his face buried in his hands, shaking like he was crying. He looked fragile, broken, no threat in sight. I lowered myself next to him and asked if he was okay. The moment he looked up, the air shifted. His eyes were wet, but cold, empty. There was something wrong in the way he moved. He didn't just stand up. He got up like a beast, rising slow and deliberate. His crying felt forced, like a mask hiding something darker. He took a step closer and whispered, voice cracked. Brides make me sad. Weddings remind me of how alone I am. He kept moving toward me, but his tears didn't stop. It was like he wanted me to feel sorry for him, but there was no mercy in those eyes. He stopped just inches away, almost crushing the space between us. Are you going to marry me? He asked, his voice trembling, but heavy, almost like a demand. I tried to back away, but my legs refused to listen. Panic flooded in, cold and raw. I turned to run, but felt his hands clamp hard on my arm from behind. He's not dangerous, I wanted to tell myself, but the way he held me told another story. His grip tightened while he kept apologizing between shaky breaths. Sorry, please don't leave me. I didn't care about his apologies. I shoved his face away, slammed my fist into his ribs. He grunted, but didn't let go. The pain twisted into a raw survival instinct. I kicked and scratched, finally breaking free, scrambling for the door. Outside the storage room, a man was standing, smoking a cigarette, watching the whole mess with half interest until I yelled for help. He dropped the cigarette and stepped in, ready to protect. The old man turned his crazed attention to him, eyes wide and wild. Without warning, he lunged, fists flying. The smoker tried to block, but the old man hit him hard in the face. The sound of bone breaking filled the air. The smoker crumpled to the ground, groaning. I didn't wait for what came next. I ran like hell, desperate to get help. Every step was agony, but I forced myself forward. The sound of chaos behind me grew louder. The old man was hunting us. I burst into the main hall, yelling for someone, anyone to call the police. My boyfriend was passed out on a table, useless. Guests stopped dancing, frozen by confusion and fear. From the back door, the old man stormed out, wild and angry, still grabbing at anyone who tried to stop him. He swung wildly, breaking glasses, knocking tables. People screamed, dodged, or tried to pin him down. I saw the smoker trying to crawl away, blood running from his mouth. The old man went after him again, grabbing him by the neck and slamming him into a wall. The sickening crack echoed, and the room seemed to stop breathing. Someone tackled the old man from behind, holding him down as more guests rushed to help. They struggled, but he was strong, like a cornered animal. Sirens blared outside. The police came, dragging the old man away, cuffs tight on his wrists. He kept crying, mumbling about loneliness and weddings. No one made sense of it then. I was taken to the hospital because of the cuts and bruises. My head throbbed, but what burned more was the feeling of being hunted, like the old man's cold eyes were still on me, even when I closed mine. Later, the cops told us he was a psychiatric patient who escaped from a nearby facility. No one knew how he ended up at the wedding. The fact that he targeted me, asked me to marry him, that part no one could explain. I guess I was unlucky, or maybe it was my fault. I should have never followed that man.
I'll start by saying this isn't one of those stories where my life was at risk. There was no gun pointed at my head. No deranged killer chasing me through the woods. I wasn't in danger. Not in the way you'd expect. But what happened that night is the ugliest thing. I've ever seen in my career as a cop, and it never left me. I can still picture the scene just like it happened that day. It wasn't dramatic, not at first. Just a routine traffic stop on a quiet highway. I'd done it 1,000 times before. A car going too fast, sirens on, driver pulls over. You check their papers, maybe a ticket, maybe a warning, and you move on. That night should have been just like that. But it wasn't. What I saw still makes me sick. Not because I was scared for myself, but because of what they had hidden. And the way they looked at me, like I was the punchline of some sick joke, only they understood. I pulled them over past midnight, a red sedan swerving and going way over the limit. Inside were 2 women. The driver was skinny, with stringy hair pulled back tight. The one in the passenger seat was heavier, stuffed against the door like she barely fit. They both smiled when I approached, wide smiles that didn't fit the situation. I told them why I stopped them. They kept looking at me, nodding, giggling under their breath like teenagers hiding liquor. Except they weren't kids. They were older, late 30s maybe. The smell inside the car wasn't alcohol, so I asked them to step out. They did so without hesitation, still smiling. We ran them through the breathalyzer. Both came up clean. My partner checked their licenses, and everything was valid. Nothing obvious to hold them on. Still, their behavior didn't sit right with me. Their eyes didn't leave me. Every time I looked up from the paperwork, they were watching, lips twitching like they wanted to burst out laughing. The whole time it felt like they were waiting for me to catch on, like I was missing the joke. My partner went to check the inside of the car.
Who says you need an office space to start a business? Anytime Mailbox has a great virtual mailbox service that comes with a legit street address that you can use as your business address. Save your cash. No need to spend money on an office space or even a hot desk. You're just getting started. Whatever you do.
He went through the glove box, under the seats, the usual spots. Nothing. He shook his head at me. We couldn't hold them. On paper, they were clean. I was ready to send them off with a warning, but when I walked back to my cruiser, I turned around. They were still standing there on the side of the road, side by side, staring at me. That same twisted grin plastered across both their faces. Not nervous smiles, not polite. It was mocking, daring me to step closer. For a second, I thought about letting it go. My shift was almost over.
Okay, guys. I hope y'all enjoy watching the girls get their hair done. Y'all some heavy kids. Y'all know that? Y'all are heavy. Mama did not make y'all light. And that's something, because on my weekdays, I cannot pick them up. That's pretty much why I be with Astrid all the time, because I cannot pick them up. I be too weak. But apparently, I like my babies heavy. I just don't have the strength sometimes to carry them. Look at y'all. Y'all and y'all 2 different melons. My 2 different melanated babies. Look at you 2. Well, I shouldn't say y'all 2, because Peach is laying right here. Let's not forget about Peaches, y'all. Don't do Peaches like that. See, Peaches laying right there, like, Peaches and Astrid. They like, really? Y'all just gonna kick us out the picture? All 4 of my melanated babies is in the bed with me today. I only have 2. I have 1 more melanated baby, and that's baby Rose. I'm gonna take more pictures of her around Christmas time, because she actually got a Christmas outfit on, the only Christmas outfit I will ever have. So I'm not gonna change her, and her hair matches her Christmas outfit, so I'm not gonna change her hair either. But the only baby that I have that's light-skinned is Cameron and Sweetie and Sebastian. My 3 light-skinned babies. which I'm gonna keep saying is Sebastian is for trade. If anybody want to trade me a baby. So yeah, but anyways, guys, my husband is getting off of work, so I need to clean off this bed and put the babies away before he gets here. They're just sitting here chilling with me. So yeah, I'm gonna let everybody go. Remember to like and subscribe to my channel. Remember to share my channel. And everybody stay safe.